Welcome back to Black Girl Iowa, the podcast where we uplift stories and voices of Black men and women making an impact right here in Iowa. I'm your host, Emily, and today we need to take a pause from my regular scheduled programming and address an urgent issue in a troubling situation. Dr. Ian Roberts, a respected community leader and advocate for education, was recently detained and arrested by ICE without cause. His arrest has left many of us shaken, not only because of the injustice he faced, but of what it means for all of us living as Black people here in Iowa. This is a big one. This is bigger than just one man. It's about our safety, our dignity, and the truth that our very presence is still being criminalized. Tonight, we're circling the wagon as cousins, community, and family to have the conversation that needs to be had. But before we start the conversation, I just want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Roberts. Previously served as the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, Iowa's largest school district, as he was appointed in 2023. Roberts was born in Guyana and spent most of his childhood in Brooklyn, New York. Over the last 2 decades, he has served leadership roles in education across multiple U.S. School systems, including as teacher, principal, district executive, and superintendent in places like New York, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, St. Louis, and in Pennsylvania. In addition to his work in education, Roberts is also a former Olympic athlete. He represented Guyana in the 2000 Sydney Olympics as a mid-distance runner. What we know so far is as of Monday, September 29th, the Iowa Board of Education Examiners revoked Dr. Roberts' education license, which disqualified him from serving as superintendent. Dr. Roberts submitted an immediate resignation from the Des Moines Public School Board, which was approved by the board on Tuesday, September 30th. On the same day, Dr. Roberts' attorney, Alfredo Parrish, sent a documentation stating that Roberts' immigration case was closed in April 2024, but it has been reported that a final order of removal was issued in May 2024, and Dr. Roberts failed to report to a required hearing. So I'd like to go ahead and take a moment to introduce tonight's guest as we go through this discussion. From Black Iowa News, we have Leah Williams.
Good afternoon. Is this where I jump in?
Yeah, kind of. From the Brothas Go and Work It Out podcast, we have Daron 360.
Shaw, it's a pleasure to be here.
And last but certainly not least, we have Corey Dion Lewis of the Healthy Project. And Coffee Can't Fix Everything.
Podcast cousins, how we doing today?
We here.
Well,
We
Liz.
I got my freedom.
Just
I got my
survive today, hoping that we ain't next,
Pretty
Okay.
much. Pretty much.
man.
So we could just go ahead and start off with our first question here. What were your reactions when you heard about Dr. Roberts getting arrested?
For me, I was like, I just came back from a glorious trip, across the seas. And so I was like, I'm still adjusting from my jet lag. So I was like, I woke up and I was like, this is the America I got to be a part of again. Like, it's unsettling that a school board is getting blamed on who it is. Everybody's pointing fingers at everybody. But mainly, I couldn't imagine getting in my car on a Friday and not knowing I'm not going to come back home. Like, there's a lot of stuff. So looking at putting myself in his shoes, I'm being outspoken because I'm trying to protect the school district, but at the same time, I'm getting penalized and everybody's got an opinion. So I've been trying my best to not add to it, but more or less like, okay, what are the facts? And that's pretty much what Black Iowa News is about. It's not their place to, our place to support anything. Because when it comes to journalism, you're there to just support the facts that are coming out and not really an opinion. Leah Williams felt like, wow, this is actually going down. I felt that it was pretty, horrendous and then like a disservice to our community.
Yeah, I'll second what Leah said. When I first heard it, I was at work, and obviously everybody's talking about it in the office, but I kind of kept my opinions to my phone. I texted Leah, I texted a few of the other homies, just having some conversation because I wanted to know like, what was really going on. I had some, I have some thoughts about it, but at the end of the day, one of the things that me and my friends were talking about, a few of my other homies, is if you strip away everything, this was just a dude trying to do great in our community, and he was just attacked for what I feel like are bigger reasons that we just don't know yet, but we'll find out. I know we'll find out soon.
I feel the same way. As far as piggybacking off your the ulterior motives, I think you were alluding to, Corey. I felt the same way initially when I heard. And that's kind of the way that my mind works. it will jump several steps ahead often. It will kind of will truncate the thing and then figure out, okay, what caused all this? What was the primary mover for all of this? Nothing about it didn't I can't say that I was surprised if that sounds right or accurate. I mean, surprised would not be the word that I used, especially knowing that I don't think that I knew that Dr. Roberts was from Guyana, but I knew that he wasn't. I knew he was like an islander or potentially
Right.
Caribbean. It came as no surprise based on the assumptions that I had made about this administration and what they were willing to do to to make political hay. And so that was like one of the first things. Unfortunately, I wasn't like went to like this defensive mechanism. I was defensive first in my thoughts before I would thought about empathy. It's just like I'm just being keeping it a band, like just keeping it real. I wish I had thought, man, I'm worried about, what is he going through right now? But for some reason, just like thinking like a warrior, I thought to myself, all right, this is obviously a play. This is obviously some sort of tactical
Right.
move. So that's why it came as no surprise, because this was an incredibly war-minded and tactical administration. And so I figured that this is one of those things. And so, yeah, that's where my mind went, like right out of the gate.
And it's hypocritical. I mean, I'm gonna just put it out there. So for me, I was like, you just helped Reynolds, and I'm gonna say it. He helped to solidify Mackenzie Snow, I believe. That's the head of the Department of Education. And so I was you're getting all the media, those I won't name that don't think the way I think, but they came to me first. And then I saw the headline on Facebook, that Reynolds had came out there. And I was like, but he was on your side and helping you out. And now it's all this finger pointing at the Iowa Board of Education, it's a finger
Mm.
pointing at the school board. And to be clear, as far as my role on school board, we don't do no background checks. That is the HR's job because this is a volunteer position, number one. So we are not paid to do that. And so watching all that unfold, I'm like, to your point, Daron, I feel like it's a bigger, it just seemed like a political pond now, and you start thinking about, Jackie Norris is the school board president. She's running for United States Congress. And then to throw in the curveball today, I'm finding out the government is on the shutdown. So I'm like, what else? But it's hard to not spin out. I know I do. I was just sitting here. I had all kind of like
Mm.
pinpointing, the little pins and connecting the dots. So
Yeah, and I think my first initial thought was somebody's lying. I don't know who it is. Somebody's lying. I don't know what's going on, but somebody not telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I went on ICE's website and I looked at that ridiculous Chat GPT
Yeah.
essay press release that they put out. And I'm sitting here thinking like, well, this really, first of all, my journalistic tendencies are starting to tingle because if it's a pending investigation, why are you releasing photos of the investigation from the public?
or
So
he's a black man.
immediately, my immediate thought is this is the start of a smear campaign.
Uh,
They want this man to be a criminal because guess what? January 2025, they said they was going after criminals. Where they at? I don't see no criminals. But y'all going to start going after educators now. Okay, cool. Got it. Now my initial I thought homeboy was from Brooklyn. I really did. He's from Guyana. Okay, cool. That's fine. I can own that piece, but then again, he's been here for over 20 years. He's educated in the States. He's worked at all of these other educational educational institutions all over the country. So my immediate thought is, oh, look, another black man doing something positive, another black man being outspoken and doing it the way that he wants to do it. That right there is a disrupt to the system and the place that they want us. So therefore, of course, someone's going to call ice on him, and then just my next thought immediately went to the kids in the district. And these kids have already been through enough, and now their superintendent is detained, and a superintendent that was very much against ICE coming into the schools. So I can't imagine the fear for a
it's
lot of
sending a
those
message.
kids.
I mean, for those who haven't been keeping up, back to our first podcast, DEI was getting attacked out
Hmm.
the gate. And we had gotten messages prior about ISIS. I'm not saying ISIS. oh, yeah, ICE coming to our school district. And one of the things is both like a parent and a school board member was like, oh, they're going to follow the law. And I'm like, I'm not sending my child to school if I was an immigrant and trust that you're not going
Right.
to protect
Yeah.
them. If anything, I want to hear we're going to stop them at the door and let their parent get there, or there needs to be some other kind of line. Like when we keep throwing policy and law, like those things are already against us, even down to the fact of, I don't know those to be facts, but the fact that they're saying, oh, he fled, he had a gun, he had, $3,000, he had a hunting knife. I thought we said we could have a Second Amendment here, so we can't carry a firearm, we can't be hunters, it's very it's disingenuous of
Mm.
who rules and policies attach to, and to your point with the media. Like if I go ahead and criminalize you in the media, like this man done made it all the way to the podcast, The Consciously on TikTok. So I was like, this has
Mhm.
become national.
Leah, when that happened, I just gotta keep it real. And we kind of talked about this, Emily and I did before we went live. And when all that happened and there was all this, you couldn't go on Facebook without everybody saying something about it or something, posting a picture with him. And all
Mm.
I could think was, please don't let this be another Jussie conversation. I don't want another Jussie Smollett
Juicy
situation.
Smollett.
Juicy. I
Man.
don't need another Juicy situation because I want jumped out the window for Juicy. You
Right.
know, I jumped
You
out the
said not
window.
Jesse, but okay.
Gotta blame.
Jumped
You
out
got
the
Dave. Yeah, you got to blame Dave Chappelle for that one. You ain't
Yeah,
got
I
everybody saying
jumped out
Juicy
the
Not you
Smollett.
window.
jumped out the window.
Right.
It is hard. I mean, because as we're, keeping all like, because there are some people who don't want to do support. My other thing that may not be popular opinion is like, I'm glad there's protest and I'm happy to see community come together and talk about it. But like, what is your actual solution? If this is what's happening, how can we be more
Mm,
proactive and not
Mhm.
reactionary? Like, don't look, I get locked up and y'all sitting around having a whole podcast. Y'all better be talking about how we gonna free
Right.
her, how you gonna get me to Cuba, like a Sada Shakur. Like you better
Right.
come in
Rest in
or I'm
power.
gonna be sitting in jail sitting like like Game of Thrones. Okay, you on this list now. I'm gonna be checking it off. Like, come help me. Don't just sit around and discuss me. Talk to me. And then I'm happy to see the NAACP came out with the letter, but then there
Mm.
was another letter that came out. So then to your point, Corey, I'm reading comments. I'm like, we can't win for
yeah,
losing. But as Black people, we're not a monolith. We are allowed to have various opinions. All four of us may have some similarities. So, like Corey, when he reached out and all he said, I'm sorry, he go, if this would have been some old Massey, and I was
yeah.
like,
I said
look,
this
I know
was
off the top,
if this was Ian O'Malley from Ireland, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
we're not. And I said, poor
He would
bro,
have been
he
ran up
at
on.
work, he can't talk about it. But as soon as you said, I was like, oh, he talking about this whole situation. To your point, just that. But ironically,
Mhm.
there is an Iranian man that got detained by ICE, and his baby was in the back seat. They did
Mm.
not care. They came and snatched him up, and left their child in the car. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened to our humanity?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
wild.
and that really leads into safety, you know. Dr. Roberts, I feel like his situation is similar, but just like the one you mentioned, Leah, these ICE agents don't care. So, and I think when we're talking about this in the community, and I went to the community meeting last week at Corinthian, and they talked a lot about making sure you know your rights, whether you're a citizen or not, and just making sure you know what to say, you know, who to call, you know, who to talk to, and all of those things. But I feel like this situation revealed something about our current climate when it comes to being Black in Iowa and being safe and feeling belonged, and feeling like this is our home too, right? What are your guys' thoughts on just the current state of Black awareness in Iowa and Black safety?
I ain't gonna go first. I'm gonna let y'all.
The current
Now
state.
she deferred.
Because
Right.
I'll sound like a hater. I mean, keep saying, I come from North Carolina. I'm from the Greensboro 4, or also known as the A&T 4. Like my hometown, my college, we staged the first sit-in. So it has always been FAFO. Like there has never been a time of just sitting around and not trying to do anything and being proactive. And so here in Iowa, to your point, not saying all people before Daron come for me, But everybody is not like not woke. I think sometimes we want to stay so comfortable and so white adjacent at times that we forget that you are still black.
It could be
And
you
when you're
next.
not the less, and when you're the lesser of the population, for example, like on school board, you're coming after gender identity. It may not seem like a big deal, but I know that's just one leg. Because if you can remove that, who you coming for next? That is a protected federal class. And guess what? While I'm in rotation, you're not going to get to come for, myself. So I know Iowans like to feel like, oh, we got, Obama elected and racism ended. It didn't. We saw it come back up in Floyd, and we're seeing it coming up now. And so I'm still sticking to, I would like to see us not be so reactionary. What is our plan? Are we creating some safe spaces? Can we get off the grid? Do we know how we're going to get our food? Because tariffs are here, the government is shutting down, like all these things are in place, but what are we actively doing to help support ourselves? So do we got a what you call it, some money to the side that if you did have to help friends, where are those resources?
Yeah. Yeah. Daron?
Yeah, with that, what was I gonna say? Had another thought. Amen to what you're alluding to with the like the sort of the maroonage and mutual aid. I feel like that's what you're addressing. Self-determination, sort of self-resiliency within, within the Black community. I'm all for that. That's persistent. And to your question, Emily, about safety, I mean, again, that's persistent. It's always unsafe. Like it's kind of our safety is persistent in the same way that like the geography is persistent when Malcolm X was talking about if you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. And it's a similar kind of ideology that when even in Iowa, despite all of its like so-called liberal bona fides or progressive bona fides, I grew up here. I know what it's like to be in rural Iowa. I know what it's like to be in one of the most diverse cities in Iowa and still feel marginalized. I know what it's like to be called nigger at Iowa State in the middle of the night, minding my own business, chasing after pickup trucks. This is real rap. So safety, I mean, safety is always relative. It's always particularly for us as a minoritized population, demographically minority, but minoritized in our power, particularly in places like Des Moines when we really have, I would say we have an opportunity to express a political power kind of disproportionate to like how many Black folks are in the area. We have a disproportionate ability to affect change. I mean, when you think about just some of the cultural institutions that we've established from from our own newspaper to KCB, which became KJAM. So and the list goes on and on and on. Our capacity to affect change is disproportionate to our demographic standing, and I think that's what makes it unsafe because there's a very political majority. The demographic majority in Iowa is very protective of that way of life, of that power, and they don't take too kindly to to us getting uppity. Even though, again, contrary to our progressive bona fides, that it really do not. I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it like philosophically. Like I don't know, when you get a little bit uppity, there's gonna be some there's gonna be some issues,
There's gonna be some
consequences,
pushback a little
repercussions.
bit.
Yeah,
I was
there's a
gonna
little bit of
that
pushback.
uppity, but I know Corey got to roll out. Over
Yeah,
here,
yeah, Corey. Yeah, I
I'm gonna
wanted
get ready
to.
to pray.
I was just gonna say that. So yeah, Corey, what would you like to add to the
Understood. Yeah.
conversation before you got to head
Yeah.
out?
So I gotta head out. First of all, I want to thank all my podcast cousins. I really appreciate y'all for continuing to have this conversation. This is what I'll say before I leave. When it comes to safety, there is that sense of, if I'm being honest, like, is there anything I can do to really feel safe? Like, is there anything I can do? And then I had this other thought of me is like, well, I almost have to. There are many organizations that I can join. There are things that people that are not Black do that I can do as well to protect myself and my family first. Because if I don't protect myself and my family, how can I be a voice for the community at the same time? So I think for me, what gives me comfort, or what I try to do to have some sense of safety and security in the state where it feels like, um, somebody's always coming at you, or there's always something coming at you. is, well, this isn't, even though it may feel like it's 2025, not 2000, not 1965, and I can do something to protect myself. So, I don't know what that looks like or how, but that's just how I feel right now.
I got a couple organizations that I can text you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I became a yearly member of, of a few organizations.
He said, I ain't gonna even tell y'all. But that's
He said, we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
We'll talk
Look,
about that
no.
offline.
that
Well,
made me think
I don't know
about
if y'all
when
know
you talk
Corey
about,
Rooster, but shout out to Corey Rooster. He has, he does a few things. Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
what I was thinking about.
yeah.
But
All
yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah,
we will
I
have,
hope I see y'all next.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope I see y'all
Well,
the next Thursday.
yeah. Well, we'll have more information about those clubs once we decide to release that information. But Colton, we know you got to go. Thank you so much for being on the conversation. We'll go ahead and let you head out before we jump into our next topic.
Appreciate y'all.
Peace
All
out.
right,
Take care,
thanks,
Corey.
Corey. All right, so then just a couple more questions here that I thought would be important for us to go over. I don't really want to necessarily talk too much about Dr. Roberts and some of the information that has recently come out about his background, about his education, just because a lot of that at this point is conjecture and we still don't really know what's true and what's not. What I really want to focus on right now is talking about our community and our students. So it's well known at this point, DMPS serves over 30,000 students. I'm a DMPS grad, so is Daron. And I was telling a coworker today, my biggest fear is that we no longer have a superintendent that stood 10 toes down on not allowing ICE into schools. Now that he's been arrested, he's been detained, and a lot of people are under fire now because of so many different things. I am dreading the day that I hear that ICE agents went into DMPS schools and detained students. What are your thoughts on that potential reality? And as parents, how can we, obviously we can't protect our children, but how can we prepare our kids for potentially seeing something that traumatic on a random school day?
I think from the outside looking in, since I'm on the outskirts, I want to kind of push back in a way of saying that the former superintendent before Dr. Roberts, he pushed back on like COVID and Institunet. So I've always seen Des Moines schools to me being way more proactive because at that time we had a different superintendent here in Johnson, and I kept saying, why can't you be brave like them? Stand up. But then when I realized politically she didn't align, she was towing her line, not my current superintendent. So I've always saw Des Moines as being like, okay, we're not going to do that because we represent so many different students. I think the second part you said, how can we help to support? What was the?
Help to support and prepare our kids for
Thank
this
you.
potential reality?
Honestly, you got to have conversations because it looks to me like what the students that I used to work with, it's very diverse. There's kids in her jobs. There's kids that, are Muslim. Like not everybody is from the same, Baptist or, Methodist upbringing, but it's like having those conversations and making them aware, like it's no difference in being in emergency preparedness. There needs to be, hey, here's going to be our spot. If this happens, this is where you need to go meet. You need to treat this like a tornado drill. Like, where's your meetup spot? If something goes down, who is going to be your safe person in that school? Like I would say, look for the adults in the building that are going to protect you and stand up for you until your parental could get there. That's something I was thinking off the cuff a little bit. The rest of it is I feel like sometimes the other thing that didn't come up is it was the Latina festival this weekend,
Yeah.
and I know some people felt like, oh, Dr. I know we're not going back, but he was more or less like a bonus, but actually it was the Latina festival was going on, so that was prime time to come here and try to do that. And I know from my understanding, a lot of people didn't want to go, so most of my friends went to support. I'm tying that all to say that find and know who is your support person, and that conversation doesn't need to be out on Facebook. That needs to be a safe space. And so maybe there should be some sort of admin or teachers or community that can come in and like say, hey, if this goes down, and come up with that. So that's my thoughts. What about you, Daron?
My position would be from like a mentorship position because all my kids have graduated from DMPS. Praise the Lord. Uh,
Amen.
that's for not because they've escaped from DMPS necessarily. It's because I'm, effectively an empty nester and they're all grown. And, they can be in my pockets in other ways, my wallet in other ways, besides just, miscellaneous DMPS related extracurriculars. That said, I don't know. I have to be thinking in metaphors, and I was thinking about how cats raise their young and
Oh,
how they protect them. They move their babies frequently. They teach them to be like, say, for instance, feral cats. I mean, we used to feed cats frequently, and so I learned a lot about kind of cat parenting, cat behavior, feral behavior, by just watching them and how they keep their young safe. And they teach them to be skeptical, but not necessarily afraid. And there's a plan. It appears from the outside that there's a plan in place. When they move the babies know where to go, where to be. They know where to hide. They know it seems clearly established that when this happens, this happens. And I think that there's a way to teach your kids to be kind of, I don't know, feral in that way, like the dual minds. We as Black folks know about, double conscious, dual consciousness. I think there's a sort of like a feral consciousness that we need to teach our children that, like, yes, you have the rules that you are supposed to abide by in this consciousness at school, but then you've got the rules that we understand at home keep us safe as Africans and Americans, as Black people. So that like this rule only applies in this context, but
Yeah.
like when where to get, where to go, and you don't have to be afraid at all because I think rigor is another thing, and routine, because we've trained you. Like, you can train kids with dangerous concepts if you're diligent, if you don't add fear to the equation. You add, like, this is hard work. Yes, it could be scary, but trust me, I've trained you for this. I trained, for to get yourself safe, or just use some of the things that they was talking about as far as like finding that adult, whatever it is, whatever the plan is. But, I think that rigor and ritual, you can train children to do very hard things and very scary things and them not be afraid,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
that
and,
makes
when you said that, Daron, it really got me thinking about, dealing with bullies, right? Your mom and dad would
hmm
tell you, "Hey, don't you touch that boy, but if he touch you, it's game
right,
on." Because at that point, you gotta protect yourself. Don't
right.
don't let nobody whoop on you, but don't you throw that first punch, right? And so, I know for me, it's a really scary thought. I'm at a charter school, so, and our executive director said, ICE is not coming in here no matter what. We don't care. But I think from talking with a few kids that are in DMPS, talking with a few teachers, that is definitely something on their radar, especially as we get more information about Dr. Roberts, about his case, and, just really the path moving forward. I'll move that into kind of the last part of the conversation. There are still a lot of unresolved questions with this issue, including, why did Dr. Roberts think that his previous case was resolved despite, having a letter sent saying it was? How did the district miss all of this in their background checks? And, what are the possible criminal charges coming? And I think the most important thing is, can the district recover from this? There's a lot of things just up in the air that only time will tell. But when we think about everything going on right now, just my big question right now, is there hope? Is there anything that we can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel on this?
Depends on who,
I'm like,
who,
I don't know. I
what,
mean,
when, where, why, and how.
we in a government shutdown as we speak,
Yeah. Yep. Government
Uh,
literally shut down
so this is
today.
my opportunity to say that, so ironically, Daron, you talking about cats. That's all over Greece. There's no rodents. There are just stray cats everywhere. And they'll come up and they beg for food, but they knew their space, right?
hmm
And there were a few people that reach out and touch it and touch them. And I'm like, you done lost your mind. But at any rate, I want to say I like that whole cat thing. That's just ironic. I feel like I'm happy to be an American and I don't want to be deported. And I used to think, quite honestly, when we got the new president, I was like, oh my God, he gonna try to send us back to Africa. And I don't know nothing about living in no Africa. Like, all I know is America. And I've lived in North Carolina, I've lived in Maryland, and then coming here to Iowa. I mean, they're all different cultural dynamics. And it's and how people do, but there's just some things that are just universal. Like you mentioned about teaching your kids about doing bullies. My dad was big on they hit you, so I'm a little shorty, and you better wear they out, or I was
Yeah.
gonna have to come home and deal. So I used to always be the kid that you said a whole bunch of stuff, but I'd be just sitting there like, oh, you just hit me. I didn't
No, but
hit
space and
me.
opportunity.
And so, quite honestly, on the record, yeah, I teach my son the same thing. You don't let nobody hit you. I will always go to bat for you because of that. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we are in such a bully mentality. Everybody knows what's best for us, but there's nobody coming to save us. So I still
Yeah.
stick to what are we honestly thinking. And so in my little friend group, I'm already like, we need to learn how to can. We need to be figuring out how to sew. Like, we need to go back to our basics and just have those kind of skill sets. Hey, you need to learn how to grow a cucumber, which I've been doing out of a plant. How can you grow that stuff indoors? We've seen from his last administration, we was out here fighting over toilet paper. And now we're in this administration and the attack has been on education. And I
That's
think,
why you got to get a bidet.
but the point being is, when you want to make people fear something, you go after something that's very symbolic. And so this news came to us on Friday and we still talk about it on Wednesday. And I don't think it's going to stop being talked about. It's going to keep getting there. And I hate seeing some pages where people are making fun of it. Like,
Mm.
it's not a joke. And I still stick to, like, I may not get along with you, and I'm not saying I don't know this man personally, but you don't have a right to talk about circumstances, because right now that's family. Whether he's from New York, whether he's from Guyana, the people didn't know Guyana was not in Africa. But regardless, we need to we need to learn how to stop being divisive and really figure out how can we work as a unit with our different mindsets about things.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about the hope, uh, and like there's an activist, Miriam Kaba. She's a fairly popular abolitionist. And she said hope is a discipline. And it's not, and what she meant by that is that it's not some passive activity. It's something that is clarified through activity, through commitment, through clarity of purpose, and through showing up time and time again. Um, and that's really what you're talking about, Leah, when you talk about self-determination and learning how to grow, because it takes time, it takes discipline to grow food. It takes discipline to take care of one another, to be able to show up,
Mm.
to be able to do whatever it is, be it a trade, carpentry, whatever it is that you need to feel as though that you're reliant on yourself and your network. That takes discipline. So hope, yeah, there's hope, but if you're disciplined, and you're willing to be disciplined emotionally as well. A lot of these deportations, a lot of these actions are cruelty is the point. It's written by this cat named Adam Serwer. He wrote the book. Cruelty is the point, and it's about this regime, about this particular swing, this recent swing of sort of far right Christian nationalism, fascism, whatever you want to call it. The latest iteration of this project is to cause fear and disruption. Steve Bannon said at the beginning, before Trump's administration, that muzzle velocity was the name of the game. Rapid fire projectiles, rapid fire policy activities that would cause just dismay and sort of crying and the gnashing of teeth. One thing we can't afford to do is to show outwardly that we're distressed by their actions, because they get off on that. They have a
Yeah.
kinky relationship to causing distress. That's part of the plan. It's part of the lawfare. It's part of the warfare. It's part of the deal is to cause that, so that you can, do what people do. They comply in advance because
Mm.
they're scared, because they figure
Mm.
this only can get worse than this, because they figure, well, they mean what they say. But like what you said, you mentioned bullying, Emily. Like a bully needs to get his face busted. Like, I had experience with bullies, and like I hit my bully with a tree branch when I was about 7. My bully
Man,
never touched me
never
again,
bothered
or
you
never
again.
never antagonized me again. and we're dealing with a form of bullying. There's a lot. They don't have the resources to send everybody out, and they don't have the desire. Intimidation and cruelty is the thing, and so we do. Yeah, we have hope. I think we should, but not in a sense where you're not praying with your feet and your hands,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you're moving.
Can I also add this? And I notice we ain't really touching it. I'm still looking at like who did we vote in office? Like who is really stepping up and demanding some answers? Who is really there to push the needle to get what we need? Because again, like I'm dead serious. If I get locked up, y'all,
Tear it up.
don't be
Listen,
sitting here talking about me. Oh, I went,
no,
go
Leah,
do it.
don't even worry. I got the money under the mattress now. I got you. You
I'm just
good.
saying, real talk.
And I think what's crazy, and I'm really happy that that you both brought up just even the things going on currently in the US right now. It really shocks me the lack of empathy and understanding that we have as a nation anymore. Because even if it comes out tomorrow, if Dr. Roberts makes a statement and says, I lied, whatever, I don't know if I'm a sucker, but I'm still going to be empathetic to what he is going through. Because regardless, I don't care. I could not imagine, just like what you said, it's Friday morning, I've got plans for the weekend, and to get detained and know you're never going home.
Yes.
That is something that I hope none of us ever have to deal with. And my thing is this, is that regardless of how you feel about the situation, if you can't be empathetic to even that piece of it, there's something wrong. And also the other thing that I will say, that it's not so much shocked me, but I think it's really gotten under my skin about some of the things that I've seen on social media, is this whole rhetoric of how can we let someone like that around our kids? Are we really going to have that conversation right now?
Like he's some kind of
Like
sexual predator or something like that. That's what went through my head first. I was like,
that
yeah,
part.
Yeah, I'm about to get in
desensitizing
trouble.
stuff.
And that's the criminalization of
I
this
can't say what I
man.
was about to say because this podcast, I'm a little too conspicuous in public. So listen,
Put it in the chat so we can
Yeah, put it in
see.
the
having people
chat.
right,
Put it in the
having
chat.
people around, people
But
around.
I guess my thing is that how is it that you guys care so much about these kids, but y'all didn't bat an eye when Kim Reynolds passed that law that said y'all can have guns in schools? Y'all
Girl,
didn't
that's
bat
what
an
I'm talking
eye.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't bat an eye. There was a mass shooting over the weekend. The shooter shot up a church and burned it down.
Right.
But
Drove a
yet,
car into a Mormon church
yep,
and shot people and then lit the John on
and then
fire.
lit it on fire.
And that's why
But
I
yet
stay off social
y'all
media. Can't
Exactly.
do it.
But yet y'all want to sit up here and talk about saying, well, what about the kids? Then you also had people that said, well, that sounds about right for DMPS. As a DMPS alum, I'm going to take offense, because for a very long time, DMPS was leading the nation when it comes to educating kids and making sure that the kids in this state were educated. It was us.
Right. And it ignores, to your point, it ignores a long multi-Republican far-right administration effort to hamstring the Des Moines Public Schools.
That part.
They've had a beat on them for the longest time and has been targeted because for multiple reasons, because of its diversity, because of its progressive politics, as a way to show that it's ungovernable. That is the classic playbook for no such thing as the right and the far right. It's
But
all
it's
the
all
far right.
across.
So
It's all the far right at this
I'm
point.
from North
So
yeah,
Carolina.
everything is the far
And
right. It's
technically,
the
we were the
center.
top
It's
in
the center is the
education.
right.
We got the most universities, but I ain't gonna make it be about that. But my point is that the education thing has been getting targeted everywhere. Like my hometown right now, there is a mismanagement of money, and so almost about 400 staff has been let go. And so you can imagine having that many teachers. So just a couple months ago, student stage walkouts as well. Like there was no loss in a superintendent, but here you get to Iowa, where Iowa has been one to back up. I did not realize how political Iowa was until I was in different groups of people and I watched in that group, even though we would say, oh, we're being nonpartisan, but the way in people thought and how they angle stuff. And then at the time working in the government, it was the same thing. And so I was like, it's political here. Like I had no idea about going to caucuses and primaries and of that nature. But everything you do here to me has been very political. Like, who are you around? What are you connected to? What are you doing on an everyday basis? And so, um, I admittedly have not read all of Project 2025, but inherently, I know if you started taking education, you're going to now dummy down the next generation. You already got us in school standing up, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and you do not believe in God we trust when you're attacking people and not making it for everyone.
Mm.
So you have that dynamic. But when I can control your mind and how you think, because you remember it was the whole thing, oh, they're teaching CRT. Okay, maybe somewhere I would immediately say it was, but at the end of the day, why wouldn't you want people to be able to critically think? You don't want someone to have an independent thought. Because if I have an independent thought, you can't control me. And
And if you
so, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
and if you notice the rhetoric, especially that's going around about Dr. Roberts right now, it's the same 3 things: the deportation order, the fact that he had a gun, and the fact that he ran. Those are the 3 things that they're
And
talking
why
about, and
was
that
that
tell
on video? Did
and
he run
that
or did y'all need to do that because he's an Olympic? Because I was like, I couldn't imagine as a black man, and then maybe Daron, you can say that, but I've been pulled over and never did. Because if I run, I feel like that's the easiest way to shoot me, right?
Right.
Or say, oh, you're resisting. That part, to your point, like you say, uh, as my grand say, God be willing. I hope it doesn't come out the case. Like I'm still going to defend. I'll stand by it, But I don't see him running. I feel like that part I'm finding hard to believe. I don't believe you could flee. And if he's an Olympic runner, could he have outrun them? I mean, I'm just saying.
and
Right. What's
I'm
the goal?
sorry, with the way they like to shoot black people, tell you 2 plus 2, y'all trying to make it equal 5, and it's just not gonna
Right.
happen. 2 plus 2 is like, well, it equals 4. Make it make sense.
Because Deron over 6 feet tall. You got to like shrink yourself down,
Right. Low.
and then you got to use
You gotta
that
get
calm
small.
voice, and you got to let them know you polite, but you can't be acting too smart, like you going through a
No.
whole checklist.
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
I
I
want
can
to,
only speculate as to why. Like, I can only speculate as to why he would flee if that's the narrative that we're supposed to believe.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
There
I can only imagine that he thought to himself, all right, yeah, I do have $3,000 cash. Yeah, I have this. I see how this looks. Maybe I need to separate myself from the weapon so they know that I'm unarmed so that I do not get shot. That's
Mm.
the kind of thing that played out in my head and in some conversations that I don't have with, with some homies and whatnot. That's the only reason I can see why you would flee the vehicle or at least get distance between you and, the apprehending officers. Just
Or
say, all
even,
right, one thing I ain't gonna do is get caught with a weapon on me and get popped.
yeah.
but
But even with
also
that distance, you giving somebody opportunity to that. What I dislike is because we have social media, you have all this stuff. So there's a newspaper I won't name. That was the first time I read it, and when I realized who it was from, because I don't like this particular outlet, because it's pretty far right wing, And then I see Fox News came up. There was another thing on that, and so I'm like, okay, let me wait till I see some more credible
Mhm.
news sources to say something. But all in all, I don't know how we're wrapping this up. But all in all, for me, I'm looking at he's a husband, he's a dad. Like, not too long ago, we won't mention somebody got shot, and everybody was all in the outrage, how dare
Mhm.
we say anything like, there's no this. But then here, this gentleman who was an educated
An
man,
educator.
and maybe, nobody has said it, and so I want to make sure Dr. Roberts ever hear this or anybody. I think sometimes when people think you've gotten too high off on the hog, you know what I'm saying? They want to knock you down.
Yep.
Somewhere in there, I believe he upset someone and they needed to make an example. So anyone else is up in a high enough position like that, this is telling you, don't you think you too high up because we want to get at you, we will.
Right. And it's a cautionary tale. I say all the time, ask what's useful in a situation. What is useful out of this? Not what to speculate one way or the other how I feel about it. What's useful? Do you like it or not is not the question. What is useful? What is useful is like, this is a cautionary tale to your point, Leah, that you should be on your P's and Q's. You don't have to live in a state of anxiety, but make sure all your papers are in order. It's why Black folks will pay a bill and then screenshot it on the phone, knowing you got the email and you got the push notification, but you will also screenshot the thing and you will
Keeping your receipt.
screenshot the app
Yeah.
itself. So that's, this is, I mean,
I wasn't trying to go there. I was gonna be like,
God
that
bless,
conversation
God
came
bless
up. Yeah.
Dr. Ian Roberts. But there are, if things are true, there are tons of inconsistencies and things that were negligent on his part. So for us, it is yet another reminder that you
Keep your
absolutely
receipt.
must
Oh my
keep your
God.
receipts, keep your
Yeah.
degrees, keep everything,
Because I had an
keep all
immigrant
your
conversation
credentials.
today, and the lady
Yes,
said she carries a book that she likes, and that's where her paperwork is with her at all times. And I thought in my head, I couldn't imagine doing it. I was like, so do I need to be keeping my passport on me at all times? And you
Listen,
know,
I'm not.
absolutely.
if I go for
Listen,
a
Especially with the
walk,
rest of birthright citizenship.
yep.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you right now, I walk around with like 3 forms of identification, because what you're not gonna do is tell me I'm not from here. I was born right up here at Lutheran Hospital,
All
3-7.
right, quit playing.
Okay, like
Right.
what you're not
We
gonna do is
joke, but
play with me.
that could be the reality. We joke, but that could be the reality.
And that's exactly what it is. And I think if anyone takes away anything from this conversation, I think we spoke on a lot of things. I think number one, definitely stick with the facts. 100% stick with the facts. But also, to your point, Daron, everything has to be in order. There is no margin of error for us. And I feel like with Dr. Roberts, it's incredibly unfortunate that this happened to him. But just like what you said, this is a cautionary tale for all of us. We always have to be above reproach in everything, including proving that we have a right to be here. 100%. 100%.
and on the
So
other side of it, back to getting prepared. Because I'm with the shits. Excuse my language.
you're fine.
I want to get to
We
a
need to have a
point.
side chat about that.
We will.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, but when are we gonna get to a point? So Daron earlier was asking, like who did my hair, and I'm thinking back to when in the '90s, like it was unheard of to be walking around with your hair straight, right? And it was like, who said I had to have straight hair, you know, to feel like I am somebody, and why am I having to walk around with these papers? Yeah, we need to do our due diligence. But on the other hand, I got an attitude about that. Like, why am I having to do my due diligence for protection? And then you still may choose to say, you know what, F them papers and now my stuff gone. Like, if I don't have a backup, if I don't
Mhm.
have that support system, if I don't have those people that know, like I share locations with a few of my friends. So no
Mhm.
matter what, we pull up, we be like, oh, what you doing up in the Dollar Tree today? Or I see you over there, but it's constantly sharing locations. People got my
Hmm.
garage access. There are people my son knows that are his immediate emergency contacts. And
Mhm.
so I was bringing that back up. So those are things that I have outlined to him. And today we've had a whole conversation because he was like, Mom, how's your day? And I'm like, it ain't great. I got to, get on here and get these thoughts because I'm not comfortable with the way society is going and how
Yeah.
comfortable people are. And so what if it came back? Dr. Ian being detained, but then we just let all those white South Africans come into the country. Okay, y'all didn't want to go there. So I'm gonna put
No,
my
and
Yeah,
we
no,
absolutely
yeah.
did and didn't, and ain't nobody checking their papers. And also too, didn't Elon Musk overstay his
that's
student
what I'm
visa?
trying to get at.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Which is like
so
what Wine Boy said this in the piano lesson. The white man gonna fix the law. So you can't rely on the construct of the law. You can't rely on those ideas. You have to rely on things that are material. You have to have a material backup. That is to say, like you said, directly to your point, everything you described is like is outside of like what you expect to happen conceptually. Like the concept of a passport is, or the concept of your birth certificate, the concept or the concept of the law and being able to argue it is immaterial when the law can change. It was legal for us to be chattel slaves. It's illegal for, for miscegenation to occur. You have to have a practical grassroots understanding of putting your hands in the dirt and actual material of like being able to grow beets or something like that, or being able to protect yourself. Like there's a material aspect to this that is incredibly important. And I love that you highlighted that, Leah, that like you got to have something that is material. You got to have a radio. You must have, black, I'm in this group, joining this group like black ham operators and trying to learn that. That's something that is like, material, like being able to understand radio waves. Like this is
Are you
material
there?
reality. They don't,
Radio
right. They
trucker.
don't have anything to do with like whether or not I have
Yep.
permission. I think there are certain things like, yes, you want all your receipts, but you need to be able to do things that don't require permission.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. 100%. So, well, Leah and Daron, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation. I'm pretty sure we'll have many more conversations similar or even an offshoot to a lot of the things that we talked about today. Dr. Roberts' arrest is not just a moment, but it's a mirror. It reflects the unsafe conditions, systemic failures, and racial injustices that we confront head on, but it's also a reminder of the power when we come together. This is our call to circle the wagon, to amplify other voices, and to demand accountability from those in power. Our safety is not negotiable, our dignity is not optional, and our presence here in Iowa is undeniable. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. Keep showing up, keep telling your story, and keep building community, because together we are stronger, louder, and unstoppable. Until the next episode, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.